Okay, Unit 8, Lecture 1c. All right, we just finished talking or started talking about prohibition, which leads to mass smuggling called bootlegging, the rise of gangsters like this guy Al Capone. I want you to remember him, all right, who used their fortunes made from illegal liquor and profits to establish organized crime. So the ban of manufacture and sale of alcohol leads to the rise of organized crime. Okay. In addition to illegal bars or speakeasies sprang up everywhere in the nation, prohibition contributed to the attack on traditional values until its repeal in 1933. A final challenge to traditional values came in mainstream America's reaction to open immigration following World War I. The decades of the 20s witnessed a strong increase in anti-immigrant feeling among native-born Americans. Again, a rise in nativism, okay, hatred of foreigners. This feeling resulted from the racial and religious prejudice, fears of job competition, and belief immigrants might bring with them radical ideas like communism. Remember, the Bolshevik Revolution occurred in 1917. Okay, so opposition to renewed immigration after the war contributed to a revival of the Ku Klux Klan, which during the 20s enjoyed popularity in various parts of the entire nation, not just the South. And the Klan now became equal opportunity haters. They include Roman Catholics, Jewish immigrants, anybody that's different, okay? They blame for our nation's problems and they put them on the list of people to hate, okay? So Klan membership at this time is going to rise to over 5 million members. During the 1920s, Congress is going to bow to public pressure to limit immigration, and they're going to pass the Immigration Restriction Act of 1921, which you should have heard about before. All right, this places the first numerical limits called quotas on most immigration. It particularly discriminated against immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe, new immigrants, okay? It was followed 3 years later by a law that established even stricter quotas. These laws effectively cut off most European immigration until the end of World War II, though the 1924 law did not restrict immigration from Canada or Latin America. Much of this anti-immigrant feeling rose from the fear of communism or the Red Scare. The communist flag is red, so we have the Red Scare, the belief in the 1920s that communists were going to try and take over America. This was led, the Red Scare, by A. Mitchell Palmer, the Attorney General. Remember his name, okay? He recruits J. Edgar Hoover, who we'll talk about later on too, as his special assistant, and these two launched a campaign against radicals and left-wing organizations, okay? So worried by the revolution that had taken place in Russia, Palmer became convinced that communist agents were planning to overthrow the American government. He came to this belief because of the discovery of about 38 bombs sent to leading politicians and an Italian anarchist who blew himself up in front of Palmer's house. All right, in November of 1919, Palmer had 10,000 suspected communist anarchists arrested with no evidence against these people. Many of them were held without trial for a long time. 247 were even deported to Russia. So eventually, Palmer's disregard for people's civil liberties, those liberties and our rights that are protected under the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, is going to call or lead to him falling out of favor, and he'll be done, okay? Now, I'm going to try and talk briefly about Sacco and Vanzetti. Okay, Sacco and Vanzetti are two Italian immigrants. They're left-wing radicals. Their trial is very important. You should read about it because I'm not sure I'm going to finish it in this amount of time, okay? Sacco and Vanzetti are opposed to the First World War. They took part in protest meetings. In 1917, when we entered the war, they fled together to Mexico to avoid the draft, okay? When they returned to the United States on May 5th, 1920, Sacco and Vanzetti are arrested and interviewed about the murders of two men in Bridgewater, Massachusetts. These guys had been killed carrying 2 boxes containing the payroll of a shoe factory. After they were shot dead, the 2 robbers took $15,000, got into a car containing several other men, and drove away. Several witnesses claimed these men looked Italian. All right, a lot of Italian immigrants were questioned. Sacco and Vanzetti both had alibis. All right, both of them were somewhere else with witnesses. The trial lasted for a few weeks, okay, and they are convicted and put to death because of their political affiliations and because they didn't speak English well and because of their immigrant nature, okay? So 7 weeks of trial, they were both put to death. Look into it.